brother hooked up with my fiancée and got her pregnant days before our wedding. So I did his face and kicked her out, and my parents sided with him and demanded that I forgive them. But I told them to F off and took my revenge. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, I've never really posted anything like this before, but I'm trying to figure out how my life flipped upside down in a few months. I, 33 male, live in a mid-sized city, have a full-time job in logistics, and a pretty boring day-to-day life up until recently. I'm the oldest of two. My younger brother Chris, he's 30, and I were never exactly close. And honestly, that's probably the nicest way I can put it without sounding bitter. Growing up, it was always clear who the favorite was. And yeah, I know every older sibling says that, but I'm not talking minor stuff. I mean full-blown golden child treatment. My parents, Steve and Diane, used to tell me that Chris just needed more attention. He's sensitive, my mom would say. You're older, you need to be the example. Which basically meant Chris got the soft landings and I got the lectures. I'd get grounded for breathing wrong, and he could crash the family car and somehow end up with a pizza party. That kind of crap. All the time. By the time we hit our 20s, I was already checked out of the family stuff emotionally. I moved out as soon as I could afford to, worked through college with 2 part-time jobs, and landed a decent logistics coordinator role at a small firm. I was doing my own thing. Chris, not so much. He bounced between community college, short-term gigs, and startup ideas that somehow always needed more money from my parents. They called him ambitious. I called it BS. But I stopped bringing it up years ago because it always turned into me being negative or jealous of Chris's creativity. I kept my distance, especially during family holidays, where I was either invisible or the designated punching bag. Somehow every conversation turns into a backhanded comment like, "Wow, still renting?" Or, "Chris has been really thinking about launching something big. You ever consider doing something different with your life? Just passive-aggressive nonsense disguised as small talk?" Anyway, about 5 years ago, I met Nicole. She was a friend of a friend at a birthday dinner I almost skipped. I wasn't looking for anything, but she came in like a whirlwind, confident, opinionated, and really into goal setting and knowing your worth. She made a huge deal about standards and what she deserves, but I brushed it off as just her being assertive. Honestly, I liked that she didn't make me feel like I had to prove anything. We talked all night, then again the next day, and pretty soon we were seeing each other regularly. Things moved fast in a good way at first. We moved in together after a year. She worked in HR at a company, made good money. She had this very clear picture of what life should look like by 30, house, marriage, vacations, couples fitness goals, the whole thing. I was down for most of it. I mean, I've always wanted something stable. Someone to come home to, someone to build a life with. Nicole met Chris at my birthday dinner a couple years ago. She said he was charming and more outgoing than you'd think from the stories. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured maybe she was just surprised my little brother wasn't a full-on screw-up in person. He'd managed to clean himself up enough to pass for someone with their life together that night. Good for him, I guess. After that, Nicole would bring him up randomly. Like, "Your brother's got such good style." Or, "Chris told me about this app he's thinking of launching. Sounds cool, right?" And yeah, I'd get a little annoyed. But I never wanted to be that insecure boyfriend who freaks out every time his partner mentions another guy. Even if that guy is your own damn brother. Family events became weird. Chris would make these digs masked as jokes. "Nicole must be a saint for putting up with your spreadsheets and cargo shorts." I laughed it off, even though it bugged me. Nicole laughed too. Eventually, I proposed. Simple setup. She said yes. We cried, we hugged. I felt like I was finally on the right path. After years of being the invisible son, the backup plan, the guy who always got the short end, I had something good. Something that was just mine. My parents barely reacted. Chris texted, "Congrats, bro," with a party emoji. We agreed to a longer engagement so we could save for a house and avoid going into debt for the wedding. I was fine with that. Nicole said she liked it because it gave us room to breathe, though she didn't exactly cut back on online shopping or nails appointments. But I let that slide. Relationships are a balance, right? Work on my end picked up heavy. 2 people quit, so I was doing logistics and operations for almost a whole team, pulling late nights, weekends, not forever, just until we got new hires up to speed. Nicole said she understood, but I noticed she got more distant once I started working late. Suddenly everything became, "Well, you're not even here," or "I feel like I'm planning this wedding alone." Meanwhile, I'm the one running numbers, checking budgets, making sure we're not going into marriage buried in debt. Then came the engagement party. Nicole wanted something small and elevated, so we rented an event space downtown. Her parents helped with the bill. Mine didn't even ask. My mom said, "I assume you want us there?" And my dad just said, "Just send the address." That's the level of warmth I got. I handled my end. RSVPs, vendor calls, setup. Nicole picked out the decor and told me to just trust her vision, which basically meant stand back and nod. I did. My brother Chris rolled in 25 minutes late, wearing sunglasses like he was walking into a concert, hoodie with some designer name I'm sure my parents paid for. He walked up, gave Nicole a hug that lingered half a second too long, then clapped me on the back like we were boys. "Looking sharp, Jay." She said, "Yes, miracle, huh?" Nicole laughed. I didn't. I looked him in the eye and said, "Glad you made it. You can find the drink table to your left, and the people who still tolerate you straight ahead." He smirked like I just told a joke. I wasn't joking. Through the night, I noticed he stuck to Nicole like glue, bouncing from conversation to conversation, always orbiting around her. She didn't exactly push him away either. At one point, I was talking to one of her coworkers and saw the two of them by the bar. Real close, heads tilted in, her hand brushing her hair. I walked over. Neither of them noticed until I was 2 feet away. "What's up?" I asked. They both looked startled. Nicole laughed it off, said they were just talking about her old job and how Chris is thinking about starting something in the tech space. I said, "Cool. Maybe when he finally starts something, we'll talk." Nicole rolled her eyes. Chris changed the subject. I didn't stay long. I walked away, but not because I was hurt. I just had what I needed. Something was off, and I wasn't going to ignore it. Later, I found Nicole on the balcony. Alone this time, thankfully. She looked stressed, arms crossed, scrolling through her phone. "Everything good?" I asked. She looked up, exhaled like I'd interrupted something. "I just needed a breather. Your family's kind of a lot." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, they can be." She gave me this half smile. "Especially your mom. She kept asking if I knew what I was getting into." I leaned against the railing next to her. "Did you tell her I'm not that hard to handle?" She smirked. "I told her I can handle anything." "You seem to be getting along with Chris," I said casually. "Saw you two talking a lot tonight." She shrugged. "He's funny, more than I expected. And honestly, it's just nice to talk to someone who gets the vibe of this kind of thing." The vibe? You know, the pressure. Being around people who expect you to say the right thing, wear the right thing, smile at every bad joke. Chris gets it. I kept my expression neutral. "That's interesting. Didn't know he was that deep." She laughed at that, but not like it was a compliment. More like I was being naive. "I'm not saying he's deep. He just doesn't try so hard. You're always on edge around your parents. It changes your energy. It's hard to connect with you when you get like that." That stung, but I didn't let it show. "I guess I just don't love being reminded I'm the spare son," I said, keeping my voice even. She didn't reply right away, just looked down at her phone, tapping at it like I wasn't still standing there. Then she said, "Jay, I don't need you reading into every conversation I have tonight, okay? It's a party. I was being friendly." "Okay," I said, stepping back. Wasn't accusing. She sighed like I was making something out of nothing. "You really need to stop overthinking everything. It's not a good look." The days after that were weird. Nicole started keeping her phone on silent, face down on the table. If I walked into the room, she'd close out whatever screen she was on. I asked her about it. She got defensive fast, said it was work stress, that I was being paranoid, and that I never used to be like this. I said, "Maybe I just never had a reason to be." She didn't reply. Around that time, Chris texted me twice. Once about some investment opportunity he wanted to pitch me, and the second time just saying, "I hope everything is going good with Kristen." I didn't respond to either. I screenshotted them and archived them, just in case. Then, one night I got home late, around 9:15, and the apartment was dark. Nicole had said earlier she was grabbing dinner with a friend from work, but I checked the texts and she mentioned it was early, like 6 p.m. I waited. By 10:30, she walked in like nothing happened. Smelled like perfume that definitely wasn't hers. Not the usual kind she wears anyway. She looked surprised to see me still up. "Oh, hey," she said, setting her bag down. Dinner ran long. "Yeah?" I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Where'd you go?" She hesitated a beat. "That new sushi place on 5th. It was Maya's idea." I nodded slowly, then turned my head. "You hate sushi." She blinked. "I mean, yeah, but I just had some dumplings. It was fine." "You also hate dumplings." She laughed, but it was forced. "Okay, well, I didn't want to be rude." I closed the laptop. "I called you. Your phone was dead." She crossed her arms. "It died around 7. Sorry, I didn't realize I needed a permission slip to have dinner with a coworker." "You don't." I said calmly. But if you're going to come back late, wearing someone else's scent, and feeding me a story that doesn't line up with your own preferences, maybe tighten it up next time. You're not even trying. She stared at me, offended. Wow. So now you're tracking my food choices and accusing me of lying? I'm not accusing, I said. She scoffed. You know what? Maybe if you weren't working 12-hour days and snapping at everything, I wouldn't feel the need to escape once in a while. I didn't rise to it. So you were escaping? I didn't say that. No, but your face did. She rolled her eyes and stormed off to the bedroom, slammed the door like she was the one who had a right to be mad. I stood there for a few seconds, letting it all settle. That was the night I started writing things down. Not because I wanted to catch her, because I knew I already had. The next morning, she was back in happy fiancé mode, listening to some podcast, frying eggs, acting like the night before hadn't happened. She asked me if I could help her pick a rug for the future dining room. Her words, not mine. I said, sure, send me the links. She smiled like I passed a test I didn't know I was taking. I smiled back, but inside I'd already flipped the switch. I started watching her, closely, but not obviously. The little things piled up fast. Her phone was suddenly always locked, even around the apartment. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter, screen up. Now it never left her sight. Sat face down, notifications off, said it was for mental clarity, that she was working on being more present. I nodded. That's healthy, I told her. She smiled again, like I was buying it. I didn't ask questions, didn't give her a reason to change her rhythm. I just started tracking it, quietly. Every time she left and came back acting different. Every story that didn't quite line up. I started syncing stuff, text logs, shared calendars, photo timestamps. I wasn't going to get caught flailing if this went bad. Meanwhile, Nicole turned up the pressure. More comments about how couples should work, what real men provide, how other guys treat their fiancés. You know, Maya's fiancé already locked in their venue, she said one night while scrolling. He handled the deposit and everything. Didn't even need her to remind him. Another time it was, Haley's fiancé surprised her with a second ring, just because. Like, who even thinks of that? So thoughtful. And when I got home late from covering 2 shifts, she tossed this one at me while reheating pasta. I don't want to marry someone who's always running on fumes. You're tired all the time lately. I just nodded calmly. Yeah, been a heavy week. She seemed annoyed that I didn't take the bait. Then a few days later, she sat me down in the living room, like she was about to deliver some tough love. I just feel like I'm the one driving this relationship forward, she said, arms folded. I'm managing the wedding, juggling my job, staying in shape, keeping my social life together. And I look at you and you're just, she waved vaguely at me. Here. Here? I repeated, tilting my head. You know what I mean? Not really. I thought being here was kind of the point. She rolled her eyes. You're physically present, but emotionally, you've been coasting. I nodded thoughtfully. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just not performing it loudly enough. She narrowed her eyes. Don't do that thing where you deflect with clever lines. I'm being serious. Me too, I said evenly. About a week later, I got a DM from someone unexpected. Nicole's younger sister, Emma. Now I've met Emma maybe 3 times. She was younger, still in college. She was quiet. Never really jumped into conversations unless someone dragged her in. Nicole used to roll her eyes about her. Emma's still finding herself, she'd say. Usually followed by some dismissive story about how Emma didn't get ambition or relationships. So I was surprised when I saw her name pop up. She messaged, hey, can I talk to you about something kinda important? It's about Nicole. That stopped me cold. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, trying to decide if I even wanted to know. But I typed back, sure. You good? She replied, yeah, I'm fine. But I found something you should probably see. I'm not trying to get involved, but I couldn't ignore it. Before I could respond, she sent a screenshot, then another, and another. At first, I couldn't process what I was looking at. It was Nicole's iMessage screen, a convo with someone saved as C. The first message, C, he's so checked out. You deserve better. You know I'd never treat you like that. Then, C, you don't need to explain anything. He'll just have to accept it. You're building something better now. C, he doesn't get a say. You're moving on and starting a real future with me. Let him deal with it. I sat back in my chair, phone in my hand, heart racing but my head clear. I messaged Emma, where did you get this? She said Nicole left her iPad at their parents' house a couple weeks ago. It wasn't locked. Emma had opened it to check something and saw the messages. She didn't say anything at first, but after a recent fight Nicole had with their mom, where Nicole screamed that Jay's useless and holding me back, Emma got fed up. There's more, she said. Voice memos, notes, photos. She offered to send it all. I told her not to send anything yet, to back it up, and let me call her the next day. That night, I sat in my apartment, just staring into the dark. I didn't call Nicole out. I just planned, because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was strategic, coordinated, premeditated. And if she wanted to play this like a game, she picked the wrong opponent. I woke up the next morning to a text from Emma. "You need to call me. There's more." I hadn't even opened my eyes fully, but something about the tone was different. She was level-headed. I called immediately. She picked up on the first ring. No hello, just, "She's pregnant." Zarania, I sat up straight. "What? Nicole? She told our cousin last night. She's pregnant, and it's Chris's. I saw the messages this morning. She sent screenshots while we were still on the call. Nicole to Chris, time stamped just after midnight. Nicole, what do we do now? Chris, tell him. He needs to hear it from you before someone else says it. Nicole, he's gonna hate me. He's going to lose it. Chris, it doesn't matter anymore. You made your choice." I just stared at the screen, reading the same 3 lines over and over. Emma added, "She said she was going to talk to you today. Probably to spin it. Just be ready." I said thanks. Hung up. She came in around 4 p.m. Tried to act normal at first. Put her keys down gently. Took off her coat slowly, like she was rehearsing it. I stayed sitting. Didn't say anything, and waited. "Can we sit down?" she asked, like we hadn't been sleeping under the same roof without speaking for the last 3 days. I nodded. Sat across from her. I already knew. I just wanted to hear what kind of fantasy she was about to sell me. She started slow. "I need to be honest with you. I've been feeling neglected. You're always working. You come home late. You barely look at me anymore." I nodded, still listening. She took that as her opening. "Chris made me feel seen. He listened when I talked. He asked about my job, about my goals. You used to do that. But lately, it's like I'm just part of your schedule." I raised an eyebrow. "So you slept with my brother?" She blinked like that threw her off. Then her tone changed. Sharper now. Like she was the one making the judgment call. "This isn't just about cheating. Chris understood me in ways you didn't. He made me feel wanted. Do you have any idea what it's like to feel invisible in your own relationship?" I leaned back. "You're really trying to make this sound like I failed you." She didn't even blink. "I'm not saying I handled it perfectly, but Chris didn't pressure me. He was just there, when you weren't." "You mean when I was working double shifts to pay for the wedding?" She rolled her eyes. "You think throwing money at things makes you a good partner?" That was it. She'd fully convinced herself this was reasonable. That she was somehow evolving, and I was just collateral damage. I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, grabbed the folder I had prepped earlier in the week, screenshots, timestamps, voice memos, all courtesy of her sister's synced iPad, dropped it on the table in front of her. "You can save the rest," I said. "Emma sent me everything. I already know." She looked like she'd been smacked across the face. You talked to Emma?" "No," I said. "She talked to me, because she actually has a conscience." She flipped through a few pages, saw her own words in print, saw the message where she asked Chris if he thought I'd ever find out, the voice memo where she said I was safe and boring, and that Chris made her feel like a real woman. She tried to cry. I didn't buy it. "I was going to tell you." "You are telling me," I said. "Right now, but only because I cornered you." "Jay, please." I walked to the front door, opened it wide. "You wanted to feel seen? I see you now for exactly who you are. Get out." She stood there frozen. Tears, excuses, none of it mattered anymore. She walked out. I closed the door behind her. Then I picked up my phone and called Chris. He answered like he'd been waiting. "What, she tell you?" "She came to me, man," he said, voice already defensive. "I didn't chase her. Don't make this my problem. You slept with my fiancée. She was already halfway gone. I just didn't lie about seeing it." I hung up. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove to his place. I pulled up, but when I got to the door, it wasn't just Chris waiting. My parents were there too, like they'd been called in for moral backup. Chris opened the door and actually looked smug, then softened his face like he just remembered he was supposed to look sorry. "Jay, look, I didn't mean for it to happen like this." My mom stepped in. "He's hurting too. This wasn't easy for him either." I blinked. "You're serious?" My dad nodded, arms crossed. "Sometimes people connect in ways we don't expect. You just need to be the bigger man." "The bigger man?" I repeated. "For what? Getting stabbed in the back?" My mom raised her voice now. "It wasn't like that. You've been cold for months, Jay. Nicole said—" I cut her off. "I don't care what Nicole said. She cheated. With him. And you're standing here defending it?" Chris stepped closer. "I made a mistake. You think I haven't paid for it? You haven't paid for anything in your entire life," I said. I paid for your shoes, your car, your reputation, hell, even your silence. Not anymore. I looked at my parents. Enjoy the son you protected, the one you always made excuses for. Then I turned around and walked out. But they didn't back off. They doubled down. It started with texts from my mom. You need to let go of the anger. There's a baby involved now. He's your brother, and that child will be your niece or nephew whether you like it or not. Then my dad got involved. You think you're the only one hurting? Your mother's sick over this. Chris is stressed. Nicole's struggling. You need to stop making this worse. Worse. Like I was the one who climbed into bed with my sibling's fiancé and blew up a family. Then came the group messages. My aunt, cousins, all repeating the same nonsense. One mistake shouldn't tear a family apart. You have to be there for the baby. Be the bigger person. I muted the chat. The next day, I got a handwritten letter in my mailbox. No stamp, just dropped in. My mom's handwriting. Families survive things like this when everyone is mature enough to focus on what matters. You used to be so strong. I know you're still in there somewhere. No apology or ownership. Just one long guilt trip taped in cursive. That same night, I blocked 3 numbers and reported an unknown one for harassment. They started getting desperate. Then Chris showed up at my gym. I was finishing up my second set on the bag when I heard someone shouting behind me. I turned around, and there he was, walking straight toward me like he was the one who'd been wronged. You need to stop, he snapped. I pulled out one earbud. Stop what? Acting like a brat, he spat. You're punishing everyone because Nicole chose me. That was the first mistake. I let him keep digging. You're making this about you. My parents can't even focus on the baby right now because of your tantrum. You're putting stress on everyone, and for what? You lost. Move on. He said that. In public. Loud enough for people to turn and look. You got embarrassed, he added, voice rising. That's all this is. You thought Nicole was locked down. But guess what, man? She wanted me. And now there's a baby coming, and all you're doing is crying because you didn't see it coming. He got closer. You're not the victim, you're just bitter. And that was the second mistake. I didn't even think. My right hand was already bald. One clean punch right across his jaw. His head whipped sideways. He stumbled, slammed into the lockers behind him. Everything went still. Another guy stepped in like he thought a brawl was coming, but it wasn't, because Chris wasn't charging back. He wasn't swinging. He was trying to stay on his feet, holding his mouth like he couldn't believe I'd done it. You're not the victim either, I said. You're a coward, a leech. You had every chance in the world to build your own life, but you waited for mine to get stable just so you could hijack it. Blood trickled from his nose. One of the trainers came over, told him to leave. Chris turned, still holding his face. You just made it worse. No, Chris, I finally made it fair. He stormed out, muttering something about pressing charges. I didn't care. I knew the fallout was coming. I just didn't expect them to walk right into it. Nicole texted me first. So you're violent now? You showed your true colors. You always acted like the mature one. But the second things don't go your way, you throw punches like a child. You're disgusting. You're not a victim, Jay. You're just bitter that someone else saw my worth. I replied with one line, go to hell, Nicole. Then I blocked the number and forwarded the message to my lawyer. I sat down on my couch, opened my laptop, checking my emails, then my phone rang. It was Aunt Madeline. I almost ignored it, assumed it was more pressure or guilt, but something told me to answer. Her voice was serious. I just heard what happened. Your brother. She took a breath. Jay, there's something you need to know. I've kept my mouth shut for years, but I can't anymore. She paused. Your grandfather left a trust fund. For both of you. You and Chris. Equal shares. 75,000 each. I was there when he signed the documents. But your parents told the family you didn't want yours. That you were too proud and would rather do it all yourself. Chris got access to his by 22. He's been burning through it ever since. Failed businesses, cars, whatever he wanted. But they funneled yours into another account. Said it was safer that way. I'm sorry. I thought you knew. I sat there frozen, my brain on fire. That money could have changed everything, helped with loans, housing, stability, freedom, and they stole it to bankroll their favorite. I should have told you sooner, she whispered. No, I said. You told me at the perfect time. The next morning, I met with my lawyer again, showed him everything. We filed a formal civil claim for fiduciary misconduct and financial theft. My aunt agreed to testify to the existence of the trust and the deception. The paper trail was weak, but the witness testimony was gold. He filed the complaint that afternoon. After that, the knock came. I checked the peephole. Mom and Dad, of course. I stepped outside. Mom started immediately. You punched your brother in the face like some animal? What is wrong with you? He showed up at my gym screaming at me. I gave him what he came looking for. Dad, you've gone too far. You are tearing everyone apart. No, I replied. Your favoritism did that. Nicole's betrayal did that. Chris, being a walking parasite, did that. Mom, you think this is all about you? That baby is your niece or nephew, and you're acting like a spoiled brat. No, I said. I'm acting like a man who finally stopped letting his own family walk over him. That got a reaction. You were always like this? My dad barked. Always miserable when things didn't go your way. That's why people pull away from you. That's why Nicole left. Because you never learned how to make people feel wanted. I smiled. You know what's funny? You raised me to be responsible, to work hard, to be loyal. But you hated me for actually doing it. They didn't speak. Chris fails upward, and you call him ambitious. I bust my ass, and I'm bitter. I take care of things, and I'm controlling. Nicole cheats on me with my own brother, and you're crying about her feelings. Mom started to talk. I raised a hand and cut her off. You want to talk about why I don't deserve good things? Let's go there. You made sure I worked through school while Chris burned through every dollar Grandpa left. You said I wasn't mature enough to manage money, then gave mine to him. Their eyes widened. I know about the trust, I said. Aunt Madeline told me. Grandpa left me $75,000. You rerouted it. You stole it. Then you told the rest of the family I was just too self-sufficient to need help. Mom's voice cracked. We did what we thought was best. No, I said. You did what was easiest. You fed Chris until he believed he deserved everything. And now you're mad because I stopped starving myself to keep the peace. I took a step closer. You think I'm cruel because I finally drew a line? You think I'm dangerous because I punched a man who publicly humiliated me? Let me tell you something. If Chris wasn't my brother, he'd have a mouthful of broken teeth. I held back for you. They didn't say a word. I don't owe you, Mom whispered. We were trying to hold the family together. I nodded. By blaming the only one who didn't lie, cheat, or steal. Great strategy. Then I pulled out my phone. Hit record. This is your final notice. You're not welcome here. You show up again, I'll file for a protective order. I'm not giving you the chance to twist the story in public. Dad took a breath like he was going to speak. I didn't let him. And just so we're clear, I said, locking eyes with him, every message, every voicemail, every well-meaning phone call from a flying monkey, already in a file. My lawyer's sending cease and desist notices today. I turned around, opened the door. Oh, and that baby? You better hope it turns out nothing like its parents. Because if it does, you'll finally understand what it's like to raise a disappointment. Then I shut the door. The cease and desist notices. Filed. Served. Confirmed. Restraining order request. In process. Legal separation from this entire mess. Underway. Peace finally on its way. When the court date came, they tried to put on a show. Nicole's lawyer tried to paint her as deeply remorseful, claimed that she never intended to cause harm, and that emotions during engagements can be complex. Chris's lawyer tried the young and stupid defense, claimed Chris had been manipulated by his feelings, that it was a lapse in moral judgment, and not a pattern. Then it was my lawyer's turn. He just opened a folder and handed the judge a neatly prepared binder. Screenshot after screenshot of Nicole and Chris mocking me behind my back. Voice memos from Nicole saying I was a safe and predictable, and that she was planning her exit. Texts between Chris and my parents calling me too sensitive, and mocking my job. The gym footage of Chris screaming at me. Aunt Madeline's sworn affidavit detailing the trust fund. Bank records showing how my money was funneled into family accounts for Chris's ventures. The judge flipped through the binder page by page, while the other side squirmed in silence. Then came the best part. My lawyer said, Your Honor, our position is simple. My client wants protection from harassment and manipulation, from this ongoing campaign to drag his name through the mud after being betrayed, stolen from, and emotionally violated by those people. The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear the ceiling fan click. Nicole turned red, blotchy and uneven, like she couldn't figure out which emotion to pick. Anger, embarrassment, or shame. Chris looked down, suddenly very interested in the texture of the floor. The judge turned to the gallery and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, This isn't just a family falling apart. This is a coordinated effort to isolate and manipulate one man for years. I'm not here to fix your family. I'm here to make sure Mr. My last name never has to deal with any of you again unless he chooses to. And then the rulings came down. Restraining orders, granted. Cease and desist notices, upheld and enforceable. Financial claim, moved to full trial. Discovery begins in 30 days. My parents tried to say something again on the way out. The bailiff shut it down. Outside the courthouse, Chris looked like a kicked puppy. Nicole was crying. My mom had her hand on her chest like she was about to faint, and my dad couldn't even look me in the eye. A family of liars caught in public. Their mess spilled out in documents and recordings. They walked out like trash bags someone had dragged across the street and left in the sun. And I walked out like I'd just closed the last chapter of a book I'll never read again. 2 days later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was my dad. "We didn't think it would go this far. Just drop the money case. We'll sign whatever you want. Just stop before you destroy us." I forwarded it to my lawyer. Subject: new message, confirmed coercion attempt. 3 weeks later, my company accepted my request to transfer. Same role, different city. I transferred to another branch of my company a few states over. Just packed up, signed the lease on a new place, and left. A couple days after I got there, I went to the local shelter and picked up a dog, a mutt. He eats, sleeps, and minds his business, which is more than I can say for most of the people I left behind. As far as I'm concerned, that's the end of it. Appreciate everyone who stuck through this mess. Might not respond to every comment, but I read them.